What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have yet another album review for you, and we're going deep into the underground once again.
Deep.
Finding some interesting stuff. Actually, this was sent to us by a band, and, well, I mean, they have HM2 guitars. Naturally, I want to go over it because HM2 guitars. Yep. Sometimes it's just that simple.
Yep, that was the same boat I was in. They sent us a message and said, hey, we're going to send you a CD. I said, cool. And then I talked to Nick about it, and he was like, no, HM2. And I went, okay, HM2.
Sometimes, again, it is that easy. So we're going to go over the latest offering from The Plague, Erosion of Gods. This comes out on the 28th of October on Bitter Loss Records. This band formed in Sydney, Australia in 2016. This is their second album overall. We actually got a copy of their first album in a care package from Bitter Loss.
Yep.
Got forever ago. Thank you again, guys. And their debut album, Within Death, is just crusty, violent, HM2 death metal, pretty much worshiping at the altar of Entombed, Dismembered, and Bloodbath, and, well, I mean, that's an awesome altar to worship.
Yeah. Those three things combined, I mean, you can't really go wrong.
That's a dream build.
I love it. Love it.
So they got a hold of us a little while ago and asked if they could send their album, which, all the way from Australia, that's, like, some serious postage, so thank you once again, guys. And they even were cool enough to send us some shirts, too. So thank you extra, guys.
Hey, shirts.
These are pretty damn cool.
Yep, thank you.
But yeah, let's talk about this album. And I already alluded to pretty much what it sounds like. This is, again, crusty HM2 death metal. Very much like in the vein of like old school HM2 too.
Oh, yeah.
Like this is definitely like that ever-flowing stream, left-hand path style of HM2 death metal. It is fast. The guitar tone, well, I mean, it is appropriately chunkier than hell.
Yeah. Very, like, fierce 90s, like, early 90s, fucking just old school as it gets. Yeah, the guitar tone is just all the way up. Just cranked that all the way up and said, okay, does that sound grimy and filthy?
What?
Excuse me? Oh, my God. Yes, filthy.
You know, that sounds grimy and filthy.
Oh, you mean grimy and filthy.
But before we get that, we get an intro, Arbinger of the Abyss. Kind of a moody little setup. There's a lot of wind in hell or Australia. Could be either one. I don't know.
There's a clock.
Oh,
there's a chiming clock.
There's also like moans and string sections. Actually, it kind of reminds me of the string sections you hear in like 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
And the choirs too. It sort of wells up and then gets right into hacked and butchered. And yeah, this song just comes right at you with, again, a very familiar sound, but really just well done. And honestly, I really dig the mix on here. I think the mix in here is really solid.
For a smidgen there of time, I had a slight gripe about the guitars because I thought they got drowned out by the bass, but maybe it was just my ears adjusting to the extreme fucking HM2 tones, and then once I settled into it, I was like, yeah, everything sits really nicely. The drums are pretty out front.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, what are you going to do?
I mean, you're competing with an HM2 tone. You got to be a little...
Yeah, you got to have things that cut through at this point. Just...
Oh, yeah. Dude, this tone sizzles and snarls. It's pretty much maximum buzzsaw on here. The vocals are raw and snarling. At points, it sounds like dude's about to lose his voice on the high screams. Like, they're all pretty much going for it. And these first three tracks on here are just bullet trained. Like, we're going for all the fast sections. It's kind of thrashy, up-tempo, hacked and barbecued, living catatonic, and impulsive convulsions. All three of these songs just kind of just go. Like, they are fast, they are thrashy. There are, like, quick transitions to groove your pockets, but this first little run of tracks here just can't wait to go fast.
Yeah, where's the fire, you guys? I mean, it just bullet trained the whole thing from the second hacked and butchered kicks in, it just immediately kicks in the door, and it's like, rah! And then, yeah, the other two songs do the same. They're just like, rah!
Yeah, this album just kind of started fighting. I mean, as soon as you said, where's the fire, man, I was like, wow, man, they do have those wildfires in Australia, man. It's pretty crazy there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where the fire is. My bad.
It flushes all the venomous creatures out from the underbrush so they can go out and murder people.
And most of this is about riffs, too. Very few solos. In fact, I really think outside of like maybe Entrenched in Decay, where there's a little bit of lead melody, I don't think there's much going on by the way of lead at all.
There's a little bit of a lead at the end of Desolate Wasteland, but it's more like just like a lead melody. And honestly, that's kind of what's going on most of this in terms of like any sort of lead play. It's like an accompanying like crawling riff to go on top of these big, heavy HM2 chugs, and when they let that tone ring out, it's absolutely massive sounding.
And outside of the song Hacked and Butchered, because towards the end, I don't even want to say it's a breakdown, but like towards the end it gets a little chuggy and you get this nice double kick groove. The drums for the most part are really just straightforward meat and potatoes, a lot of D beats, some two steps, mostly D beats though, mostly just like a punky fucking...
I mean, well, that makes sense. Like, even with the style, like, I mean, a lot of HM2 death metal still worships at the altar of discharge. You know, multiple altars being worshipped here. Songs like Desolate Wasteland again. There's some like good punky riffs in there and D beats behind them. And Roadside Burial has some good punky moments to kind of balance out the, you know, almost grindcore sort of vibe on that one. Like, there are more blasts on that song than I think on the rest of this. A lot of this kind of moves at that thrashy sort of like just, you know, high octane pace, but not a full-on blast beat. This one is just violent blast beats, almost kind of akin to, well, I mean, it would be a slower Rotten Sound song, but it would still be kind of a Rotten Sound song.
Yeah, it's in that vein for sure. Now, I know we said mostly D-beats, two-step and whatnot, and thrashy. There are some groovy moments in the song Incinerated. The second verse has a stomp groove, and then it gets kind of chuggy. Desolate Wasteland has a bolt thrower groove to it. Entrenched in Decay has an obituary vibe to it in the beginning. And then the last track, Erosion of Gods, the title track, is noticeably different, I think, than any other song on here. Darker, heavy accented intro, bloodbath vibes. You get a lot of stomps, though. The end has an elongated groove on it, finally. Like, it's one of the longest songs on here. In fact, I think it is the longest song on here.
Yeah, and that's kind of a thing on here where groove is only done in smaller pockets. A lot of this is very fast-paced. In fact, this entire album runs under 33 minutes. Like Rotted, Dried, and Mummified, which is the same way I like my Waffle House hash browns. It's really weird. Opens up with a slower, menacing groove. It's an absolutely savage, brutal riff. And you're kind of preparing yourself for, like, you know, a slower, more menacing, lumbering song. But this band does not like to lumber. I mean, it lumbers for a little bit, and then it breaks into, like, a full-speed run right at you. And eventually it kind of just goes back to the faster stuff, which I like. It's awesome. It's fast and gnarly. But at the same time, like, some of these grooves really need to carry on.
Yeah, I mean, it lumbers in the sense that it's going to hit you in the face with a 2x4. Lumber.
Fired.
But yeah, I mean, most of it is just balls out as fast as you can go all the time. The groove isn't centrified much.
Yeah, and as much as I like faster stuff, man, some of these grooves really do need to hang on longer. Like Entrenched in Decay. I love how that song opens up. It kind of reaches a little bit more for Florida on that one with the big obituary riff. Like, legit, if you took the HM2 tone off there and kind of put on Trevor Parris's ultra swampy tone, it's an obituary riff. And it's a good one because that's pretty much most of the riffs that Obituary writes. And you're kind of settling into this. Like, I was waiting for, like, just a straightforward Obituary groove. Like, let's just headbang this one up. And it inevitably just kind of corrects course. Now, granted, their cruise control is fast. Like, at least they're going like 80 on cruise control, or at like 80 miles per hour here. I don't know. They do like kilometers there. Whatever. Anyway, it's still fast. But I kind of need a little bit of groove on here because a lot of these faster parts kind of end up sounding the same. Like, it's a lot of, you know, tremolo riffing and like very straightforward death metal ones. And while I like it, they're not as distinct.
And the last track, well, it does speed up, which was kind of a bummer coming out of the longer, you know, darker kind of stomper groove. I was hoping it wouldn't speed up, but at least when it did this time, it was more thrashy versus like more, you know, punky and just straightforward. Like, there was still something to the riff to hold the ear.
Yeah, and it did it more in increments. Like, it starts in with the very slow, just evil sounding. Like, this song is just monstrous right out of the gate. And then, you know, it kind of speeds up to like a double time rhythm. It's like, all right, that's cool. Like, it's not going full bore yet. And then it does speed up. But the riff behind it actually has like more like thrashy machine gun riffs. And it's like, all right, that's a little bit different. The big issue I had with this album is a lot of the faster sections feel kind of interchangeable.
100%. Especially the first actual real songs, the first 3 of them after the intro. Those ones I feel like you could throw in any order you wanted to and interchange riffs all day long and it wouldn't make any difference.
Yeah, and while I like the vocal delivery, it does kind of get very samey, especially because the cadences are kind of the same. You have like a good mid-range roar and then a high scream that comes in kind of frequently. And there are points where it sounds like it gets cut off because like dude just completely rocked his vocal cords there, which, you know, that's cool. I like hearing people go all out. But at the same time, there were a lot of sections on here where a good low growl probably would have had like more emphasis on just a single part. Like, you know, that would be a little bit of variety here. And, you know, I like meat and potato stuff. Like, I own, like, every Jungle Rot album.
Right.
You really don't need to own every Jungle Rot album, but I do.
I think it's because a lot of the songs were structured the same. I mean, until you get really to the end of this record. Because of a lot of the songs being structured the same, I feel like a lot of the delivery vocally is going to be the same because there's not anything really to work with. Like, if it's all interchangeable, you could just do that same vocal pattern over everything and it wouldn't make a difference because it all sounds the same.
And it teases changing things up. Like, you get songs that will lead in a little bit differently, or you'll get like a cool breakdown groove that comes in. It's like, man, I really want that to stick around for more than a couple of measures. But then it inevitably corrects course. And there are a couple of shorter songs in here that I just don't feel are completely fleshed out. Impulsive Convulsions and Roadside Burial. While I like Roadside Burial because it adds like almost a death grind element to it, it feels oddly too short for, you know, a death grind song. Like, I feel like there should have been a little bit more to it.
Even Hacked and Butchered just stops. Like, you get that chug over the double kick and then it's just bam, done. It's almost like you could hear more going on, but they just said, fuck it.
But overall, I still enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Like, this is just good, like, 90s style death metal. I like meat and potatoes death metal. While this is stuff that is very familiar to me because I've been listening to it since the 90s, it still resonates with me. Like, a lot of this kind of reminded me of later Dismember, like Where Iron Crosses Grow, and I think that's like a super underrated Dismember album. But yeah, this is just good. Like, it's just solid HM2 death metal. So overall, I'm going to give this 3 stars. This will probably not surprise you in any way if you've been listening to HM2 death metal for years like us, but will it deliver what HM2 death metal should? Like violence, riffs, a tone that could like physically hurt someone? All those things are yeses right there. And they do it really well. The riffs are savage as hell. The vocals are savage as hell, almost to the point where I think the dude is like hurting himself for a vocal take, but that's the metal spirit right there. You fucking go for it. What it doesn't have in like variety on here, it makes up for with intensity. And for all 32 minutes and change of this is an absolutely intense listen. If you're a big fan of HM2 death metal, I mean, you know, Entombed, Dismembered, Bloodbath, but I'll also throw in another Aussie band, Descent.
Ooh.
Which,
I fucking love Descent.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Bands like that. Like, if you just want violent riffing and just heaviness, just pure heaviness, check this band out.
Yep, I agree with Nick on all 4 fronts. As I've been listening to HM2 for a long fucking time, this definitely hits the nail on the head for the tropes of a good HM2 band. It's also 3 stars for me. Like Nick said, what it lacked in dynamic, it packs a fucking punch the way it should. It is intensely violent. Everything after the intro, it just goes. It goes and it goes. And it goes really quickly. And while that's a bad thing sometimes, I mean, it is just a solid meat and potatoes punch in the face. Like the same way Jungle Rot does that 1-2 punch with simplicity, so does The Plague. It's angry, it's out to hurt you. The vocalist has definitely bled on the mic. It wouldn't be metal if you're not bleeding on the mic and there's not, you know, throat chunks and whatnot. But I mean, yeah, snarled riffs, big chugs, nasty fast drum beats, nasty tremolos. It checks off all the boxes. Just for me personally, it was also missing some things like, you know, groove more often than not, or, you know, longer songs, or just more to it than a D beat and a 2-step. Again, that's not a big gripe because I love HM2 bands. Like Nick said, if you like Entombed and Bloodbath. Descent, definitely Descent, dude. I haven't listened to that band in a long time, but I'm about to. Yeah, you're probably going to like this. I would recommend checking it out.
Yeah, in Australian terms, I would say this album is heavier than a saltwater crocodile that has ingested like 4 kangaroos. I don't know what the official measurement there is. It's probably in metric. They like metric.
It is in
there.
metric.
So if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below to thrallsmetal.com. Our Patreon link is in there. It is also on our channel, but on thrallsmetal.com is our store. We have t-shirts, both new and old. Our older ones are discounted, and we have hats now. So if you're looking for some Thralls merch, that is exactly where to find it.
Much like my wiener, I'm going to leave this short and awkward. Thank you guys for tuning in and subscribing and hanging out and talking and continuing to watch us and like these videos and just interact. It's crazy sometimes to think about because I don't understand. I really don't. We're thankful that you guys come here and watch us, although we question your taste. We appreciate it nonetheless. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you guys all rule. Plenty of stuff coming in the future. We got a whole bunch of stuff planned, probably all the way through the new year in terms of like different content. So stay tuned for all that. And once again, you all rule, and we will catch you later.